What's going on YouTube? Today I bring you my 2021 NBA playoff predictions. This and then we would be back to our regular scheduled NFL content. But again, I do watch basketball and hockey, so I have my NHL playoff predictions up on the channel already. And today we're going to be doing the NBA, and we're also going to be including the play-in tournament. Without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off with the West play-in tournament, you got the Lakers against the Warriors for that 7 seed. And, the Lakers, they're going to have LeBron James back in this game. Who knows how he's going to be in his first game back, but obviously a huge, huge gain for the Lakers in that game. But the Warriors, especially Stephen Curry, they've been on fire lately, and they're looking like a really tough team to beat right now. So even with LeBron back, can the Lakers beat the Warriors? Now, keep in mind, the Lakers also have been very hot, so it's going to be a very good game, very good game. And then the Grizzlies and Spurs. Spurs a bit of a surprise team this year. Very competitive. Obviously the 10 seed is not that good, but still way more competitive than most people thought. And with the Grizzlies over there, Ja Morant has been pretty good this year, so they've snuck their way into the 9th seed, and they'll be battling for that 8th seed, or battling to play for the 8th seed. So moving on, I do see the Lakers pulling out a win over the Warriors, and they secure that 7th seed. I think with LeBron back, that is definitely a lot of motivation for everyone on that team, and both teams have been extraordinarily hot. And I think I'm going to take the Lakers in that one, though, just because, again, just with LeBron back and stuff, I'm feeling the Lakers in that one. And then the Grizzlies beating the Spurs to go on to play for that 8th seed. The Spurs have been good, better than people thought. Not good, though. And I think at times the Grizzlies have looked like an actually decent team. The Spurs, every now and then have, but I do feel the Grizzlies a lot more. And then for that 8th seed, you have the Warriors and the Grizzlies. And again, a very good game. But at the end of the day, I just think the Warriors are easily the better team here. Again, they've been on fire lately. Steph Curry has been playing like an MVP. And although I don't think he is the MVP, and I'll get to that later with our award predictions, I do have the Warriors pulling it out here pretty easily in my mind to pull that 8th seed in. So it really just stays the same as if there was no play-in tournament. And moving on to the East play-in tournament, Celtics and Wizards. Wizards were able to move up into that 8th spot. And then the Pacers and Hornets, two very good games here. The Celtics just lost Jaylen Brown, and that's going to hurt them a lot. They looked like they were starting to get things down there at the end, and then losing Jaylen Brown, it just was a big, big loss for them, and they've looked pretty bad since. So that's going to be a tough game for them. The Wizards, on the other hand, have been extremely good down the stretch. Russell Westbrook finally looks like Russell Westbrook again. Speak English. He finally looks like Russell Westbrook again, and Bradley Beal's been going insane all season. Is it good enough to beat the Celtics? I guess we'll see, but they're going to be very exciting to watch. The Pacers, they just were pretty bad at times this year, and I would really blame a lot of that on the coach. So coming into the playoffs, I don't really know how that coach is going to, I forget his name, but I don't really know how he's going to handle the playoffs, if he's had trouble enough with the regular season on a pretty talented team. And then the Hornets, who fell down from that 8th seed to the 10th seed. Still a very good, very competitive team, obviously. Gordon Hayward has been fine, but really the heart and soul of that team has been LaMelo Ball, and we'll see if he's enough to beat the Pacers. But moving on, I do see the Wizards pulling out a win over the Celtics. They've been extremely electrifying, especially because of Russ again lately. And the Celtics without Jaylen Brown, I just don't know if they're able to do that. So the Wizards are going to move up here into the 7th seed, and then left we have the Celtics and the Hornets. And again, this will be a very exciting game, but I just think at the end of the day, without Jaylen Brown, it's going to be really, really difficult for the Celtics. They've already been kind of a bad team, but then you take away one of their best playmakers, things become really difficult. And I really like the Hornets. I really want to see him in the playoffs. LaMelo Ball in his first year in the playoffs would be so fun to watch, and I think they'll get that 8th seed. But now with our play-in tournaments and predictions over, time to move on to the actual playoffs. And some very good matchups to start off with. Jazz and Warriors is going to be an extremely fun game, fun series to watch, especially the shooting. That'll be really fun. But I think you do kind of see a certain team with an advantage there, but who knows? Maybe Steph Curry shows out. Clippers and Mavericks, a bit of an easier series for me. I mean, Clippers, very talented team. Now we all know playoff P sucks, but maybe he breaks that this year or something. The Mavericks are having some extreme issues with their chemistry with Luka Doncic and Porzingis right now, and I'm pretty sure Porzingis got hurt anyways. So it's really just Luka Doncic out there by himself. Is that enough against the entire Clippers team? The Suns and the Lakers, again, a very good matchup. You know, you have the Suns with Booker and Ayton and Paul versus LeBron and Anthony Davis. And at this point, if LeBron isn't going to be held back by his injury, this is where he's going to finally get to full strength pretty much in this series. So that can be a very difficult task there for the Suns. The Nuggets and Trailblazers, Nuggets were able to pull out that 3 seed and have been super impressive even without Jamal Murray. Honestly, surprisingly impressive without him. So, at first glance, without Jamal Murray, you might look at this Nuggets team as one and done. But again, they've been so competitive. Jokic, the way he's playing, Aaron Gordon was a great addition, and Michael Porter Jr. is really coming into his own. So that's not going to be an easy series there for the Trailblazers, who just kind of seem to be stuck in mediocrity. Sixers and Hornets. I think you do obviously see a very easy pick there, but I think the Hornets will at least put up good competition. Knicks and Hawks, the Knicks down the stretch were able to get that 4 seed, get that home court advantage, and I think that's huge for them because they're one of the best teams at home in basketball, but one of the worst teams away. So getting that home court advantage for that first round is really, really huge for the Knicks. The Hawks have not been good away from home, so that's you see a big advantage there, although very, very evenly matched series there, so that's going to be fun to watch. Nets and Wizards, again, it may seem like there's an obvious pick here, but honestly, with how little Harden, Irving, and Durant have played together this season, it's really difficult to say they're going to win this series easily because, again, the Wizards have been very hot, and Russ and Beal are making a great duo together. So it might be a bit more of a challenging series than it might seem at first glance. And then the Bucks and the Heat. The Heat were on fire there for a little bit and then cooled off pretty quickly. And the Bucks have been looking very good, obviously, as per normal with Giannis. And I think they're much improved from previous years, honestly, even if they're not the number 1 seed. So, again, maybe an easy pick there. But moving on to the second round, I see the Jazz beating the Warriors in 5. I think the Warriors are going to put up some really fun basketball. It's going to be an extremely fun series and a lot of shots. But at the end of the day, the Jazz are easily the better team. Even with the way Curry's been playing, I don't see him pulling out an entire series against the best team in basketball, arguably the best team in basketball, the Jazz. Clippers pulling it out over the Mavericks in a sweep. I don't see any way that Luka by himself, although Luka is obviously a very, very talented individual, I don't see him pulling out a win against the Clippers. Kawhi, even if playoff P sucks, he still makes somewhat of an impact, and the rest of the team is just so good. The Clippers, they're just such a good team, and especially if Paul George plays well, I don't see the Mavericks even getting a win here. Lakers pulling it out over the Suns. Maybe a bit of a controversial pick, but I think that the Suns are one and done this year. Honestly, whether it's the Lakers, the Warriors, the Lakers and the Warriors. If it somehow ends up being the Grizzlies or Spurs, I could definitely see the Suns winning. But the Suns are just too. They're just not experienced enough. When's the last time that a team in their first year won the championship? And obviously, this isn't the championship; it's the first round. But I just can't give them. I think they're one and done. Chris Paul's played fantastic. Devin Booker's been great. DeAndre Ayton's been that great third piece, but they just lack the experience, honestly, besides Chris Paul, obviously, but they just lack the experience. The Lakers have a lot more experience, and again, if LeBron James is back, I see a series win here for the Lakers. Nuggets pulling it out over the Trailblazers in 6. I see a lot of heart in this Nuggets team. Like I said, especially with Murray out, they kind of have someone to play for right now. And I think they're gonna bring that aggressiveness. The Trailblazers are gonna be one and done, and at that point, Dame's probably looking out of Oregon. Portland. Same thing. 76ers pulling out over the Hornets in 5. I think the Hornets might win one game. Um, Probably not much more than that. Again, it'll be a very fun series and stuff, but I just don't see the Hornets pulling that one out. Knicks pulling the series, and honestly, this could be a series where it's 2 wins to one team, 2 wins to the other team, win-win or something like that. Because again, how I mentioned, the Knicks are extremely good at home, and the both of these teams are extremely good at home in a very bad way. And I just think that ultimately the Knicks are going to win that in 7 because they do have that home court advantage. That's why I said that was such a big deal. So I have the Knicks advancing. Nets beating the Wizards in 6. Like I said, that's probably not going to be as easy of a series at first glance, especially if the Nets truly aren't gelled together. Honestly, I'm just going to say right now, I wouldn't be surprised if the Wizards end up beating the Nets in that series. Now, of course, this is the 7 and 8 seed predictions are to my own play-in predictions, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Warriors pulled that one out. They don't, obviously, and it doesn't even go to 7 games. But again, they're going to be way more competitive than people might think. Bucks pulling it out over the Heat in 5. Again, I think the Heat might get one game, but the Bucks are just easily the better team. I just don't even see it being debatable. I think they'll pretty easily advance. And yeah, so then we have the Utah Jazz and the Clippers. Very, very good matchup. Obviously, Jazz, a fantastic shooting team. Clippers, great on both ends of the court most of the time. They definitely have their moments in games where they're just non-existent. But that'll be a very entertaining game. Nuggets and Lakers. Nuggets have the home court advantage, and they're definitely a lot more experienced than the Suns are. Now, without Jamal Murray, obviously that's going to hurt not having that pure shooter. But the Lakers, they have some shooting guys, but they don't really have that pure shooter either. And now with both Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr., especially with MPJ being so much better, there's a couple guys that can actually somewhat defend LeBron and AD this year, and that'll be a very entertaining series regardless. But obviously the Lakers still going to put up a big fight. And I would say the Nuggets have the edge, especially with the home court advantage, but very entertaining series. 76ers and Knicks, there's definitely a better team here. I would love the Knicks to go further, but I don't see any universe where the Knicks pull this one out. And then the Nets and the Bucks, very, very entertaining. That's going to be a very, very good series. But this is kind of that series where I don't know if the Nets can go any further if they haven't gelled yet together. And the Bucks are looking pretty strong. So moving on to do the championships. I have the Jazz pulling it out over the Clippers in 6. I think at the end of the day, even if Paul George is playing well, I don't see him playing great in the playoffs. And, if the Jazz have all their guys healthy and they're a fantastic shooting team and a good defensive team, mostly because of Rudy Gobert, at the end of the day, I think they're going to be too much to handle for the Clippers, and I have them moving on in 6. Nuggets pulling out the series over the Lakers in 7. And, I think LeBron, do not make him the underdog. Okay, that's something that there are a few players in the world where you just never make them the underdog. That is LeBron James, it's Tom Brady, and that's really the only two that really come to mind to start. And the thing with the Nuggets is that they don't have that mentality. They're not going to underestimate any team. They're a very humble team. Just look at Nikola Jokic, for example. They're going to go out there and play their hardest regardless of who they think is going to play well, who's there, who's not. And I think with the home court advantage, I think with them really playing for something this year, because that's kind of been the issue with some of the Lakers, is because they just won the championship, they don't really have that will to go win it again, especially like Anthony Davis. And at the end of the day, I do see the Nuggets pulling out that series over the Lakers. It'll be a very, very fun one, but I have the Nuggets pulling it out. 76ers winning in 4 against the Knicks. Like I said, I don't see any universe where the Knicks win. They might win a game, but I have 4 here. And then the Bucks pulling it out over the Nets. It's kind of like I said. That top 3 is barely gelled together. I think that they're good when they're good, but they're bad when they're bad. And the Bucks are, to me, are just a lot more consistent, a lot more talented, and I think the Bucks are truly going to be making that run this year, especially since their coach does need to like go a bit farther than the second round this year if he wants to keep his job, honestly. And I can see him doing that this year. So now in the championships in the West. Western Conference Finals, we have the Utah Jazz versus the Denver Nuggets. Two very talented teams, obviously. And then in the Eastern Conference Final, 76ers and the Bucks. Again, two very talented teams. These are going to be fun series to watch. But in the West, I have the Nuggets pulling it out over the Jazz. Maybe this is perhaps where a bit of my bias comes in, as yes, I am a Nuggets fan, and I'm not claiming to be some extra special, knowledgeable basketball person. These are just my fun predictions. I'm going to have the Nuggets pulling it out in 7 over the Jazz. Again, I've just talked about how they don't underestimate anyone. They have that heart. They have something to play for this year that they really haven't in the couple years past. I think the Jazz are going to be great, but again, I just think they really lack that true, like, winning experience. You know, the Nuggets at least made it to the conference finals last year. The Nuggets beat the Jazz last year in the second round. And I think if you can beat them in a come from behind series win, you can do it, you know, as a competitive team. And so I have the Nuggets moving on here. And then the Bucks beating the 76ers. Again, because their coach is fighting for his job, I think with the additions of Drew Holiday and other player that I'm forgetting the name of right now, I think they've got those pieces together with an extremely talented roster, an extremely good player in Giannis. And I think overall they're going to end up beating the 76ers, past Embiid and Simmons and Harris to get here to the finals. And maybe a bit of a strange pairing, but my NBA Finals for this year is going to be the Denver Nuggets versus the Milwaukee Bucks. And again, two very, very talented teams, but also two very different teams in their play style. Who's going to win? Well, we're going to find out after our awards. Starting out with the MVP, I don't see any other choice than Nikola Jokic. He's played in every single game this season. Something that not any of these other MVP players can say, except for like Stephen Curry. And I don't even know if he played every single game. Maybe he did. But even if he did, I'm not going to give it to an 8-seeded team, or potentially a team that doesn't even make the playoffs. Nikola Jokic has been on another level this year. He I don't know if he still is, but for a while he was leading the league in every single advanced stat. And I fully believe the Nuggets wouldn't even be in playoff contention without him. If you took away, Jokic and Murray from that team, you have maybe a bottom 3 team. So Jokic, to me, is easily pulling this out. Steph Curry is the easy number 2, and Chris Paul behind him, but it's a pretty big gap for me, and Jokic is going to pull out this MVP award. Defensive Player of the Year, again, very easy pick for me. It's Rudy Gobert. He's played on another level this year, and it's really one of his best years he's ever had, actually. Some insane stats, and he's been a big reason why the Jazz have been so good, because the rest of the team honestly sucks defensively, but Rudy Gobert kind of single-handedly makes them at least a decent defensive team. And just because of that fact alone, I'm going to have him winning over the guys such as Giannis, Ben Simmons, and others. But he's been elite, and I think he deserves this award pretty easily. Sixth Man of the Year, again, just such an easy pick. I mean, so it's so obvious that I didn't even put any other candidates, kind of like with the Kirill Kaprizov prediction in my NHL predictions video. Jordan Clarkson has easily been the Sixth Man of the Year. Yet again, another reason why the Jazz have been so good this year. They have a starter-like player on the bench, putting up amazing numbers, and there's just no other choice for this award. Most Improved Player of the Year, I'm going to give to Michael Porter Jr. The Nuggets very easily could have sank as soon as Jamal Murray got hurt. And instead, Michael Porter Jr. decided to step up and start playing like a star. Every single stat is way up from last year. I'm pretty sure he averaged like 9 points last year, so he's averaging 10 more points per game. He's up in every single statistical category. In this case, they might make a championship run even without Murray because of Michael Porter Jr. Another reason why, this Nuggets team is so underrated, but really, I think he just deserves it a bit more than Julius Randle and Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball may be debatable. That third spot's pretty up for grabs, but Julius Randle is the other obvious candidate here. But I think a lot has to be attributed to Tom Thibodeau. And they're still only the 6th seed, whereas the Nuggets are the 3 seed. Again, without a star like Jamal Murray, I just think at the end of the day, Michael Porter Jr. has to pull this one out. And Rookie of the Year, I'm going to give to LaMelo Ball. I see a lot of people giving this to Anthony Edwards, but why would you give it to the Hornets are the 8th seed? They might make the playoffs, they might not, but regardless, they're the 8th seed. And the Timberwolves are like a worse bottom 5 team. Anthony Edwards has played great, but he's not been anywhere near LaMelo Ball. Even though he was out for a good chunk of the season, there's a good chance that they might even win a series with LaMelo Ball. He's a big reason why the team has been even close to as decent as they have been, and his stats have been really good. So I think LaMelo Ball should easily pull this one away. And then last, our Coach of the Year is, again, just very easily going to be Tom Thibodeau. Monty Williams of the Suns and Quinn Snyder of the Jazz were also in consideration. But when you take a team like the Knicks that really didn't look like they were going anywhere this year, and you turn them around the way that Tom Thibodeau did, it's really incredible, honestly. He made that team so much better defensively, and I'm not going to attribute that to Randall or Rose or any of them. It is completely Tom Thibodeau to thank that team got so much better on defense. And I think he also deserves to be attributed a whole bunch for the emergence of Julius Randle and Derrick Rose's return. The team's been great, but it's pretty much all Tom Thibodeau to thank for, and for me, he's just this is the easy pick for Coach of the Year for me. A lot of these were very easy picks, but Tom Thibodeau, besides Nikola Jokic, maybe the most obvious pick of them all for me. But, ladies and gentlemen, your 2021 NBA champions are the Denver Nuggets. Now, again, perhaps there's a bit of bias in this as I am a Nuggets fan, but I really do think that this team has just so much heart, and I really want to see an NBA team win a championship that wasn't just some stars, trade your future away for a player. This team is homegrown. You drafted Nikola Jokic, you drafted Michael Porter Jr., you traded for Aaron Gordon to be that final piece, and the rest of the roster is just so, again, homegrown. I want to see a champion that proves you do not have to be like the Clippers or the Lakers to win a championship. And I think that'd just be really cool. It'd be cool to see the Nuggets win their first championship. They have the heart, they have the talent, they have the depth, and they're going to pull it out here in 7 over the Bucks. But really, it can go to pretty much most of any of these teams. But I do have the Nuggets pulling it out in the end. But that is my 2021 NBA playoff predictions. Let me know what you guys thought down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Give me your predictions. We'll be back to football with our next video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see all you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.